Welcome back to another lesson on geometry. Today we're talking about quadrilaterals. So before I start, many of you may not have heard of the term quadrilateral, and basically it's another word for four-sided figure basically. So how does this term work? So quad actually stands for four, and lateral stands for sides. So a quadrilateral is a four-sided figure. Yes, there's some English right there. Okay, so what are the common quadrilaterals that you'll see at least in P6? We have the rectangle, the square, the parallelogram, the trapezium, and the rhombus. So in this chapter, what we will actually be talking more about is the properties of these quadrilaterals and how we can use these properties to solve angle problems. So first we have the trapezium. The trapezium is the most simple. There's only one property, which is one pair of parallel lines. And usually the pair of parallel lines will be quite obvious so you don't need to be scared about not being able to find the line. Next we have parallelogram. So this, from the word itself, you know something about parallel lines, and very surprisingly we have the parallelogram with two pairs of parallel lines. So the opposite sides are parallel. So we have this marking here, and remember to mark the different lines with different numbers of arrows to prevent confusion. Next, actually for parallel lines, the parallelogram, the parallel lines are actually equal in length. So we have this, and lastly, for parallel lines, opposite angles are equal. So let's name our angles A, B, C, D. Actually, you will find that angle A equals to angle C and angle B equals to angle D. So this property is very important and it's very useful. Next, we have the rhombus, something like a parallelogram but even more special. So like a parallelogram, the rhombus has two pairs of parallel lines which are opposite sides. And instead of the opposite sides being equal, for the rhombus all sides are equal. And lastly, for rhombus, like a parallelogram again, actually opposite angles are equal. So again, we name our angles A, B, C, D. A equals to C and B equals to D. So this is a rhombus. It's actually is like a square if you think about it, because just that the square for opposite angles, they are all angles in fact are 90 degrees. And next we have the rectangle. So a rectangle is basically something like a parallelogram mixed with a square. So how does it work? Parallelogram also has two pairs of parallel lines which are opposite sides, and for a rectangle, opposite sides are equal, like a parallelogram. But for rectangle, a property like squares, all angles are 90 degrees. And lastly, we have our square. So our square has two pairs of parallel lines. Our square, as you all know, all sides are equal, and all angles are 90 degrees. So these are all the properties of the quadrilaterals that you need to know, and do remember these properties by heart, because they are really essential in the geometry questions. And also when you look through these properties of the different things, the different quadrilaterals, especially those that with parallel lines, do also think about remember the different angle properties that come with it, because they usually come in hand in questions. And if you're also interested, you can search up this thing called quadrilaterals set theory, and they'll show you how actually these quadrilaterals are actually like related to each other. Like a parallelogram is also a trapezium and all that. So yep, if you're interested you can find out more, but uh, mainly remember the properties and think about the angle properties as well.